Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mysterious Mr. Ryan and welcome to the Palace of the Kings. The Palace of the Kings is a build I've been working on for the last week and a half, just trying to get right, working on the shapes and making sure I can fit it into a smallish lot for all the people who don't want to use the 50 by 50, but at the same point make it a really grand build, and I think I overall managed to pull that off. So to start off with, I built the foundation level, as I call this. This is an important part of the build. I would have liked to originally use the actual foundation feature built into The Sims 4, but the problem is I couldn't put custom wallpaper on it, which meant I was very limited with the designs I wanted, and unfortunately the design I wanted to use is this wood slat effect, which you'll see me place down shortly, and that just wasn't an option. So as I move up, the first floor uses the similar layout to the ground foundations, except I leave the areas off around what will become balconies. I use the highest wall setting I can as well, whilst using the foundation and the upper story are the lowest settings I can have. This makes the middle floor really stand out as the grandest part, but again gives me a sort of a barrier on the bottom and the top. So here are the balconies I was speaking about. As you can see, I've laid down some fences around them and now placing the columns. It's very important if you are doing this, you do need to have the move objects cheat on for the majority of this build. Not because there's a lot of things placed within one another, it's just to make your life easier. With placing some of those columns, I was having lots of problems when I did this in a test environment, so made sure I put the move objects cheat on just to make my life that little bit easier. As we move to the roof on the top, I decided to use the sort of curved roofs and the dome effect. This is something that I played with a little bit, and ideally I would have liked to have actually had the option to do a real dome, but that wasn't something I could do. Here is a chance I actually chose to use something I've not done before, which is a roof within a roof, where I actually use a roof and then put a slightly higher raised roof that's a bit smaller inside to make it stand out and have a two-level effect. Ideally I would like to have done that with glass, but unfortunately that wasn't an option, so I made do with what I had. Now here's an interesting part. With the columns, I wanted to stick a roof on the top to make it stand out. The problem I had with this though is the roofs overrun into the building basically, so when you actually do it, it's very important, don't get disheartened if you look inside your room and actually see that there are roofs in there. It's not the end of the world. When you actually turn it into a room, the roofs will automatically disappear, so just bear that in mind, that when you are building this you may run into that interesting bug. Just as we move around then, it's time to actually start placing down the wallpapers and tile and bricks. So as you can see, this is the wood slats I was talking about. I would have liked to have done this on a foundation, but I didn't have that option. So I chose to use the wood slats on the bottom and the top floor, leaving the middle with a brick corner effect, but mostly a very plain colour. I go around lowering all the roofs above the pillars to a lower level. Now I use the actual reference point of the wallpaper itself. It made my life easier to do so. Placing down some windows. Now the windows, again, you need to have the move objects cheat on because otherwise you'll have problems around those roofs. It's very, very tight. I think you can actually do it without the move objects cheat on, but considering I think there is a small overlap, it just will make your life easier, honestly, if you do it this way. Now with these centre windows, because of using the butterfly windows as I call them, the problem you have with them is they're so big, and because of the columns it's actually very hard to place, so I actually found it easier to build it from the inside. Also meant that I could use the interior wall as kind of a guideline with the height of the windows to make sure they're all even. I placed down a couple of balconies at the front, and then I actually used the show hidden objects option to actually get the wooden horses out and use the scale tool to make them even larger to put in there as kind of ornaments or statues, and I think they give a nice effect. As we move around, I'm actually using curtains not quite for what they're intended for here. Purely for aesthetics, I thought the build looked significantly better with those blue drapes essentially over all the windows and the arches. It is nothing more than an aesthetic choice. You don't have to do that in your own build, but personally I felt that that was something that really made the build take shape. Without it, the build looked a bit bare from the front. Just as I go around here, I'm placing a white border around the outside of the build itself, and also of the outside of the lot. Place down a nice stone part in the middle. Now as you can see here, I'm actually placing down grass tiles in stripes. I know it's not very clear what this is now, but in a moment when I actually get the cut brush tool out, you can see that I actually use a lawn stripe effect using a darker tone and a lighter tone. I think it makes the front really stand out. I wanted to give it a really grand effect, and the only way I could think of doing that is pristine lawns, and that was the best way I could do it. So as I move around here, now this is the part I have to admit, even by myself, I did go a little over the top. Using these blue plants around the edge to create kind of like a fence without using fences. I did keep the move objects sheet on for the majority of the build, as I said, and I did end up actually placing a lot of these on top of each other. So these are literally half a block spacing apart, which means that the build does look, I will admit, somewhat over the top with those. I think on reflection it would probably be better if you were to build this yourself to keep it with a bit of a spacing in between. So as we move inside the build now, it's time to work on the entrance hall. Now the entrance hall is something I wanted to again give a grand effect with, so place down a nice wooden floor and then place this red stripe down the side with the white borders, again to give a sort of effect of a red carpet. I wanted to also have a balcony element as well to make it look like the upstairs actually looked over the down, so I actually opened up the area a little bit by placing down the fence and deleting the floor. Placing down the lights now, making sure to light up the area, and even use these little red lights to give a red subtle glow over the red carpet, and place down the knights as kind of a guard essentially. As we move around then, just placing down some lights in the downstairs and placing down some wallpaper. With the entrance hall, if you notice that on the floor I didn't just place down a red wood, I actually turned some of the tiles around and stuff. Seems a strange thing to do, but I actually think it makes your floors seem a lot more lively. So I think that would be my top tip from this. If you were to want to take anything away, take that. Don't just stick with a standardized pattern on the floor, move it around a bit. As I move on, you saw me place down the bar just now, kind of a nice area for your Sims to come and sit, and this is the kitchen area. Again, wanted to give a grand kitchen, and I wanted to do something a little bit different with this kitchen. Now, the kitchen itself has a couple of ornaments on it, nothing exciting, just a knife rack and a spice rack, but I've never used the bar stool table-y type sort of central island before, so wanted to actually utilize this for once in the build. So made this large central area with several seats around for your Sims to sit at the morning. There's nothing exciting on it, there's no extra artwork or anything dangling above. I was going to put something like pots hanging from the ceiling above it, but it just didn't look right in the test environment, so opted against it. But again, your mileage may vary. Just as I go around placing some curtains down, I did actually seal up one of the walls, as you can see around by the kitchen area, so that area is still available for use if you wanted to use it for something. But given the sheer size of this build, I actually found that again in my testing environment I had nothing to put in it, so I decided to keep it sealed up. You saw me place down a nice little fireplace and a mantelpiece there, and moving over here, this is going to be kind of a sitting library area. Now there's lots of these throughout the build, so don't be alarmed, I use a lot of bookcases in this build. I think it's because of the theme trying to stick with the older style without using any modern technology, means that you have a severe lack of objects actually without many expansion packs, so just a nice place for your Sims to sit, and even put a desk in there as well. Now, this is by far my favourite thing. This is something I did in the Knight Citadel Castle. I think you've probably guessed already that this is a chessboard. This is a slightly smaller scale than the Knight Citadel one, and again the items on it are less grand, but at the same point a giant indoor chess set, I think it's such a nice feature. It's something I still want to have in my ideal house, that's not changed, and it's something I'm really proud of how it sort of turned out in the end. So here is a library sitting area, again something subtle, nothing too much, a couple of desks as well with a couple of teddy bears with the hearts on, just for a bit of nice decoration, and a few plants as well. Just going through now, working on the chess set itself. So the chess set, I use a lot of the debug items, so again, show hidden objects will save your skin a little bit if you want to build this yourself. The knights, I was able to use the horses like I used on the front. For the king and queen, I wasn't really sure what to do, so in the end I chose to use the bust as the queen and the dragon as the king. I used some ghostly gnomes as the bishops, and I believe I chose to use rabbits as the pawns. As we move up then to the first floor, now this is where the main bedrooms are. Now this is the sort of master bedroom, so to speak. There are two, they're pretty much identical, mirror image, just a colour change. This is something you'll see me do a lot through my builds. I like the symmetry effect, and I'm afraid apart from changing the colour, you'll find a lot of my builds will be relatively symmetrical. I'm afraid it's my little bit of OCD. Without it, I don't think I'd build the same way. So just trying to keep everything in the bedrooms, although I'm trying to keep them grand bedrooms, I wanted to keep them quite simple. There's nothing overly complex in there. There's simple lights, a nice plainish wood floor with again a nice plainish wallpaper, a couple of dressers, a nice mat. I just wanted to have just a nice chest of drawers and a mirror really. A couple of ornaments, again the teddy bears. I think this is something that have been added recently because I'd never seen them before. I think they're really nice. They're just a subtle little thing to put in, and I think they really make the room have a very homely feel. So a subtle touch, but I think an important one nonetheless. So as we move on to the main area, just placing down some wallpaper for the stairs, working to the upper story, placing down some lights to light up the area, and just placing down a nice wooden floor. Now the idea is I was originally going to have connecting bathrooms to these rooms, but in actual fact in the test environment it didn't look right. The bathrooms felt cramped, so I actually decided to have them off the room a little bit, which also opened them out that if you were up on this floor you could essentially use these as bathrooms as well. These are essentially the closest bathrooms for most of the house except the upstairs. Try to actually take away from that corner. The corner sort of made the room feel quite boring, so that diagonal really worked well with the room in my opinion. If you notice, a lot of my builds I try to avoid the standard square room as best I can, only because I think when you actually build in it, it's too easy to build in. I wanted to build something that was a bit more exciting, so the shape I think really works well. A couple of showery type baths, nothing exciting, a standard sink with just a mirror and a couple of toilets. Again, I use the mats overlaying on one another to try and create a bigger, grander mat. It's something I've done over the past few builds, and I'm quite happy with the style it gives and the overall impression, so I don't think that's going to be something that's going to be changing anytime soon. Just on this floor, just for a bit of a creativity element, I decided to put down one of the grand pianos again and a couple of chessboards, either side of the balcony, just overlooking it. Again, I think it's a nice touch, and I can imagine if I actually lived in this house playing the chessboard and actually having a look over at those grand knights down on the lower floor. So here's just a nice reading area. I chose to use a green on the red side, and then on the red side I chose to use I chose the red bookcases on the green side. The opposites, again, I wanted a nice contrast. I felt if it all matched too much it just looked wrong, so again, nice contrast here. So as we move to the upper story, like my last build I did, the upper story I sort of reserved generally for the nursery, kids bedrooms, and sort of just a communal bathroom for them. So large area. I don't think I used the space very well, if I'm completely honest. Again, trying to stick with the theme too much meant that I was very limited on objects, and without repeating what I'd done already on the previous floors, a lot of this is still quite open, so bearing in mind if you wanted to build this yourself there is room to put more stuff up here, so I left that for yourselves just in case you had any more ideas more than what I had. So again, opted a very similar style as the last time, so opted for a boys and a girls bedroom, and again I've actually opted for 2 nurseries this time, along with this welcoming hall area. I wanted to keep the overall area pretty open, so I use a lot of arches upstairs, except the bathroom and the bedrooms, those both have actual doors. So again, wanted to have the bathrooms opposite each other and the nurseries opposite each other to try and keep a bit of separation. Also opened it up so anyone could use them. So the bathroom is quite a big area, possibly a bit too much, but again, it's such a large area up here, there's a lot of wasted space anyway, so I thought I might as well make a grand bathroom while I'm at it. So for the first bedroom, this is the boys' bedroom, opt for a green wooden floor, green wallpaper with a blue theme throughout. Slightly contrasting colours, but again, I think there's no real clash here, it's all one colour, it's all pretty obvious. As we move into the girls' bedroom, again, use a mix of red, pink and purple. I just think, again, a nice little touch. Just placing down some desks. So the overall bedroom is pretty simple. There's a bed, a couple of chest of drawers and an alarm clock. There's also a desk, a nice mat, and also a place for the children to do some basic art. In the entrance area, I wanted to have a nice place for people to come and sit, so again, standard for me, I do some bookcases and some globes. Just a nice little mat and a coffee table. As I said, because there's so much space, I opted to actually put more toilets than I did anywhere else in the build. Again, same goes with the bath. So you could actually have multiple kids here. You could easily add another bed into each of the bedrooms, or you turn the nurseries into a bedroom if you wanted to as well. So here are the nurseries. I placed down initially a giant stuffed toy, what every nursery needs, a couple of bassinets and some mobiles above them, and some giant castle doll houses. I know it's not quite the boyish thing to do, but to be fair, I quite liked the idea of having the huge castles there. I think they looked quite nice, and again, I think for the princesses' towers as well, again, a subtle touch. With the chessboards, just wanted a nice place to come and sit, nothing too exciting, just a nice fireplace here, and just to finish off the build up over this side, I placed down another little place to come and sit and read. So, and that pretty much completes the build for today. So just I'll leave you with some nice panoramic shots along with some stills. I hope you like the new style of video and new animations I've chosen. Spent a little bit of time working on, so I hope you like it. So this build itself, the Palace of the Kings, is available for download via the gallery page on The Sims 4. You can find me at Mysterious Mr. Ryan. A lot of people do struggle to find me on there. I am on there. You just have to make sure you give it a bit of a look. If you do want to stay up to date with me, you can follow me on Twitter, links in the description down below, or see the outro at the end. If you do want to stay up to date with all the videos and get a little notification through the power of technology, you can do so by hitting the like and subscribe button down below. It really does mean a lot to me if you do like these videos and subscribe. And again, also don't forget to share these videos with fellow simmers out there. I know there's more people out there who might be interested or want to see these builds, so don't forget to share it. But for now, my name is Mysterious Mr. Ryan. This has been the Palace of the Kings. I hope you enjoy it, and I'm out. I will see you later, and take care.